Thank you for tuning in to the Simple Sophisticate podcast, the show that is part of the Simply Luxurious Life online destination, cultivating true contentment, the art of living a life of quality over quantity. Visit the blog, The Simply Luxurious Life, at our simplified URL, tsll.co, or thesimplyluxuriouslife.com to find the show notes for each podcast episode, as well as much more weekly content to elevate your everyday and deepen your contentment. From a Monday motivational post, recipes, videos of the cooking show series, style and decor inspiration, French and British inspired content, and readers' favorite regular weekly post, This and That, which is posted each Friday morning. Now to today's episode. Welcome to the Simple Sophisticate podcast, where intelligent living is paired with signature style. I'm your host, Shannon Ables, and whether you're listening on your commute, exercising, working in the garden, or sitting down with a hot cup of tea or a cafe au lait, thank you for tuning in. Let's get started. Welcome to the 376th episode of The Simple Sophisticate. Today's episode, we are going to be talking about wise investments and a very simple knowledge point to know the difference as to what actually are good investments and which ones to walk by, and to, even though they may be tempting, to say, that will actually in the long run not work for me. And to conclude today's episode, I have a limited series, British inspired, that I had the opportunity to preview entirely and thoroughly enjoyed, and think you will too. I will debrief it all and share with you why I loved it at the end of today's episode. But now let's get to today's topic of discussion. Wise investments understand the difference between a good value and a good deal. Let's get started. So let's begin with a conversation about jeans. A pair of denim jeans made of heavier weight denim and long staple cotton will cost more at the till or checkout, but it will be a pair of jeans that will be worn, and enjoyably so, for years to come. And even better, you won't be repairing them endlessly throughout their long lifespan. This is a good value. Conversely, if we compare that purchase to a pair of jeans made of short fibers of cotton, and the denim's fit and shape, thus its durability, will fade quickly, even if you purchased it at a wallop of a low price, which would be a good deal. The savviness of wise money management encompasses many factors, but one is an approach often overlooked or dismissed: understanding the difference between a good value versus a good deal. Here in the States, tax season is upon us, as many of us already know, and so many of us may have money already on the mind, even more than we usually do. However, I often find myself at the beginning of the new year assessing my monthly budget, determining where I am gaining value or unnecessarily causing more tasks and draining money. Ultimately, whenever I sit down to assess my money, my goal is to do so less often, knowing I have invested well so I can go about the living of my life that I love and trust that my decisions will stand a long duration of time, offering the performance, purpose, or function I purchased it for. In other words, I don't want to be shopping for my capsule wardrobe constantly, restocking and replacing worn out jeans that, while a great deal, only lasted 1 or maybe 2 seasons. Likewise, I don't want to have to be taking my car to the repair shop frequently, or gassing up frequently, or even replacing the car itself as frequently. More on that in one of our points discussed in today's conversation. When we invest well and apply the wisdom of purchasing great value rather than falling victim to a good deal, we deepen the quality of our overall lives, because however we enjoy living them, we can do so without surprise expenditures frequently arising. I appreciated author Byron Tolley, who is the founder of his blog and books, The Old Money Book, who addressed this topic as part of his explanation as to why frugality is a skill to hone and practice without apology. But in using the word frugal, many may misunderstand. Frugality, when it comes to wise investments, involves making sure you acquire great value for what you purchase, as opposed to buying two for the price of one, which would be a great deal. He dives into this with examples as well in his blog post, and I appreciated his explanation of what real frugality looks like so that it will add value to your life. And that's why I want to really just break down that concept and walk us through it, because often, yes, we're paying more up front and we're getting more value, but there are some instances where paying more is foolhardy because it actually is bringing more costs, bringing more stress and strain to our lives. But we'll break that down in our points today. The alignment of his argument regarding frugality aligns well with living simply luxuriously as we approach the choices we make, purchases, social life, any arena of our lives with a mindset of quality over quantity. Today, I would like to explore a handful of areas, 5 in fact, of our lives in which investing in good value versus a good deal occurs, and to offer explanation as to why paying the large price tag up front will save more money in the long run, as well as instances when a large price tag up front is just welcoming more stress throughout the duration of your ownership. So let's get started. Let's discuss in point number one the home we purchase, whether it's an apartment, a duplex, a condo, a standalone single home, whatever it might be. So, in the New York Times series, The Hunt, various individuals share 3 homes they are considering buying. They detail their budgets and their lifestyle, and readers get to guess which they will buy before it is revealed. In the most recent post, the purchased apartment wasn't the cheapest one listed, but as the new homeowner shared, quote, "When I got deep into the math, those cheaper apartments are often worse investments, partly because of the many transaction costs," end quote. Again, the value of the apartment is often seen in the price tag, but doing our homework is wise, so we will feel better about paying a bit more money. As well as the overall price tag, paying more for a neighborhood that works with our lifestyle, reduces commuting time, offers good schools, any amenities or qualities that elevate the quality of the life we live, these are worth paying for, and they do increase the value of our purchase. And often that is reflected in what we are purchasing. Not always, but often it does. That's the key, though, understanding what you are paying for and is it a value that you value. On the flip side, buying a larger home isn't always better. Depending upon the neighborhood and the town, etc., the price per square footage will vary. But even if we find a large house at a great price, what maintenance costs? How much time spent cleaning, heating, and cooling are we going to continue to pay throughout the duration of our stay in the home? As I wrote about in my second book, Living the Simply Luxurious Life, in chapter 13, I dedicate it entirely to living small. Because after living and owning a house with over 2,600 square feet before I moved to Bend, I knew I didn't want a large house again. I mean, I only lived in half of it anyway, but I also had to pay for the heating, I pay for the cooling, I had to pay for trying to decorate or for reconstruction, all those continual have tos and cleaning it, right? So all these different things that they keep going. They don't just stop when you initially buy it. So fast forward to my house now, Le Papillon. It's only one story and I have just under 1,500 square feet. I have far less to clean. And when I pay for a house cleaner, that bill is smaller as well because they will give you a rate on your square footage. And continuing down the list of monthly utilities, the heating and cooling is far less in a small house, and so much more, including the decoration of a larger house. But we will talk about decorating in another point. So don't worry, I will dive deep into that. There are all sorts of things to consider with decoration. Ultimately, wherever we choose to live, we must take into consideration what elevates the quality of our life and what will drain that quality due to upkeep and maintenance, stress due to noise and location, etc. If we only look at the dollar amounts, we aren't doing enough exploration of what we are really purchasing or not purchasing, as the case may be. So that's number one, understanding where value lies when we purchase our home and where a great deal is and knowing the difference. The second topic I want to discuss are clothes and accessories. So this point won't surprise you in the least with regards to what will be shared. And in fact, in this past January signature style post, I dove deeply into my new approach, which is not necessarily new so much as a really drilling down, really being very intentional about what I'm doing. And you can read that detailed post. I've linked it in the show notes under point number 2 today. So I dive in that post deeply into my new approach to curating my capsule wardrobe with a detailed list, a numerated list of how I make decisions and purchases. Again, nothing different or deviating from what I've normally done, but more very serious about investing and not being afraid to pay a large price tag in some instances because it will go the distance. So for our purposes today, what is the difference between good value and a good deal when it comes to clothing and accessories? So, keeping in mind the purchase of denim jeans that we discussed at the top of the episode, it is both cost per wear we take into consideration. So, dividing the upfront cost of the item with how many times we can wear the item and it continues to shine before we have to buy another item to replace it. And as Byron Tolley points out, if he purchases a well-made blue blazer at a hefty price but never has to replace it or have it repaired, and it fits him perfectly, it is not only a great value, but actually low in cost due to its quality craftsmanship. The money doesn't keep being spent after the initial sale. So this is definitely a great value and worth investing in. I continue to be reminded that quality, well-made clothing items and accessories are investments worth making. As just recently, I was wearing a pinstripe wrap dress purchased for just under $500 about 6 years ago, and it still looks in top-notch condition today, even after having frequently worn it. I am not shopping as often, so therefore I have more time to do what I love. And due to how markets work, prices will always go up over time. I have a dress that when I purchased it 6 years ago, if I had to purchase it today, due to the high quality, I would have paid a whole lot more. So knowing what you want, what works well for your lifestyle, when you purchase that initially, the price tag might pinch. As long as you can actually afford it, and you know why you're buying it, in the long run, you are saving yourself money. And it is a good value and thus a wise investment because you're no longer spending more money after the initial point of sale. And then you won't be purchasing that particular item to fit your capsule wardrobe for years. And that is something that we need to wrap our minds around. That is a good value. So long as we can afford the price, as I just mentioned, and we've done our homework and know the item is well made, fits us well, or we can have it tailored to fit us ideally, once that is accounted for, we aren't shelling out more money to fill this gap in our wardrobe for many, many years. This is the definition of a wise sartorial investment. So that's number 2, where value lies versus a good deal when it comes to clothing and accessories. Number 3 is transportation. Now, depending upon where we live and the public transportation made available to us, our choice of personal transportation will be different. But assuming most of us would use public transportation if it ran smoothly and saved us time on the road and money as well, I'm going to address the vehicles we purchase should we have to do so. So here in the States, unfortunately, most of us have to have a vehicle, but not all. And so again, some of us just live with our bikes. Oh, that would be so awesome. Or we can walk everywhere because we do have access to public transportation. That's fantastic. But in the case of, for example, Bend, we definitely have to have a vehicle, and not just any vehicle. I mean, right now, as I woke up this morning, we now have 3 or 4 more fresh inches of snow, and we're in the first full week of March, and it doesn't look like it's going to go away anytime soon because the temperatures are cold. Winter begins here sometimes in November, and it can run as late as into April sometimes. So that's almost 6 months of winter. You need a vehicle that you can drive, and safely so, in this weather. With that said, it isn't always the expensive vehicle that is best, but it isn't the cheapest either. So let's explore this topic. Tolley points out that purchasing, quote, an exotic sports car costs a lot to buy and a lot to own when you add insurance, maintenance, fuel, etc. And you may not even use that exotic sports car every day. So in other words, The most expensive doesn't always equate to a great deal nor a good value, as you are constantly spending money due to all sorts of other factors. So it isn't the price tag, but rather what the vehicle provides and the stresses it takes off of your plate due to its craftsmanship. Similar to buying a house, we have to know what we prioritize and our lifestyle, and thus the demands the car will need to meet. As someone who has had to go car shopping back in 2022 after my Buick Encore had been driven for over 10 years and over 100,000 miles, and things just started to slowly deteriorate as far as its performance, and it was going to start needing some serious repairs, I decided it was time to get a new vehicle and trade it in. But it took me 6 months to figure out what would be the best fit for my needs. And I gave myself that time. My current car was running fine to really make sure I was buying the right car for me and my lifestyle. And because I also knew one of the value points for me was I didn't want to have to buy a car in 10 years. I wanted a car that would last a long time and be a quality purchase. So I knew initially I might have to pay a little bit more up front to get that quality item that I wanted for what I valued. It is important to point out that while there are a lot of rankings out there by reputable companies such as Consumer Reports, it is always important to know where the numbers are being gathered from. And so what I mean, I'm not saying that the numbers they do gather are faulty, but this is part of that critical thinking skill. You need to ask yourself who provided the information. What kind of drivers were they? Where were they driving? What part of the country were they driving in? How often did they maintain their car? What were the weather conditions the car was repeatedly exposed to? Were the majority of the car owners and cars kept in garages or on the street? So while I took the information to heart that I researched in these rankings, I also took note of what wasn't available, as well as how many people typically buy certain brands due to a price tag on certain brands and styles, and how long some types of vehicles have been around. So the newer versions of the electric vehicles, there's probably not going to be as many reviews or studies done over long durations because they haven't been around that long. The other thing is, what do I regularly see on the road here in Bend? For example, Subaru doesn't tend to rank really high for some reason on some of these vehicle rankings, but I know for a fact people that have Subarus that have been around and driven for years into the second decade, and they're doing great. Same thing for Volvos. That is a common car. Those two cars are very common here, both new and ones that have been around for a long, long time. My neighbor has a Volvo that's been around for a long, long time, and it is fabulous in the snow. Point being, bring some of your life knowledge about cars as well, and also just ask questions about who they've interviewed for these ranking systems. Preventative regular maintenance, deciding whether to purchase extended warranty coverage, these are all expenses that may, depend upon what you are purchasing, will cost far less upfront than in response to the car when it isn't performing as you would like. While there is no best approach specifically, the best approach generally is to know what the purpose of the car is in your lifestyle and purchase for those needs the best quality, thus the best value that is available. So that's number 3. What is the best value when it comes to transportation versus the best deal? All right, I have 2 more points I want to get to, but before I do, I want to introduce you to 3 sponsors of today's episode. The Simple Sophisticate is sponsored by Vessi. So with spring's arrival, we also get warmer weather from time to time, but the key is it's time to time. And Stormburst Vessis are your go-to for every setting. From city streets to outdoor adventures, enhancing your style and activity with ease. The Stormburst Vessis are ideal for snowy trails, which we still have, as I just mentioned, here in Bend from time to time, or morning dew walks. Stormburst Vessis deliver unparalleled comfort and protection in all your favorite spots. Whether you're facing unexpected snow or slippery paths, the Storm Vessis will provide the traction you need, as well as keep your feet warm enough so that you enjoy your walk or your outing, whatever it might be, in unpredictable weather, just as we have here in Bend. They always say, wait 15 minutes if you don't like the weather, because something different will be happening soon. With Stormburst Vessis, dive into more outdoor activities, from beach trips to winter sports, knowing your feet will stay dry and warm, opening up new adventures without fear. And the all-weather, all-occasion footwear that Vessi provides in their Stormburst shoes allows you to go from beach days to snowy commutes. Stormburst Vessis excel in any scenario, providing the versatile choice for any activity involving water. Yes, the Stormburst Vessis, thus the name Stormburst. It can handle the stormburst, it can handle the water, are waterproof. As a simple, sophisticate listener, elevate your spring wardrobe with Vessi Stormburst shoes. Discover more at vessi.com/simple and get your pair today to get an automatic 15% off your first purchase at checkout and be ready to step out in style, rain or shine. Choosing Vessi means stepping into any travel adventure prepared for any weather. So visit vessi.com/simple to find the perfect blend of style and practicality in shoes designed for urban getaways and enjoy that 15% off your first order at checkout. Again, that's vessi.com/simple. The Simple Sophisticate is also sponsored by OneSkin. If you're like me, you're ready for warmer, sunnier days, but is your skin? Help your skin get through those big transitions between seasons, not just on the surface, but at the cellular level as well. That's why it's important to nurture it from the inside out and products that do more than just protect against the sun's UV rays. OneSkin's products are powered by their scientifically proven peptide called OS1. This peptide reduces the accumulation of damaged aging cells, the cells that make your skin less resilient and more prone to lines and wrinkles. Instead of masking these issues, OneSkin addresses them at the cellular level, boosting your skin's natural barrier to lock in moisture and help protect against the elements. They have a full line of face and body products, including OS01 Shield, an SPF that prevents UV-induced aging and repairs cellular aging all at once. What I have been doing is using their lotion to regularly apply to my hands. With it being so dry here in Bend, especially in the winter, I regularly need moisture on my hands, but I want that moisture to do more than just soothe. I want it to heal, and that is what it has been doing. My hands are softer. I see slightly reduced lines as long as I do it regularly, and it does feel very good on the skin. And that's the beauty of OneSkin. It addresses the root causes of aging rather than simply treating the symptom. Most skincare available on the market is designed to provide a temporary reduction in visible signs of aging, addressing just the surface symptoms of an underlying decline in skin health. But with OneSkin, in a third-party 12-week clinical study performed by a third-party research organization, OS01 Face was clinically proven to strengthen the skin barrier, improve skin health markers, and diminish visible signs of aging. Wrinkles were diminished in 87% of the users. So as a simple, sophisticate listener, I have an opportunity for you. OneSkin is the world's first skin longevity company. By focusing on the cellular aspects of aging, OneSkin keeps your skin looking and acting younger for longer. Get started today with 15% off using promo code SIMPLE at checkout at oneskin.co. oneskin.co. That's 15% off oneskin.co with promo code SIMPLE. After you purchase, they'll ask you where you heard about them. So please let them know the Simple Sophisticate sent you. Help your skin stay younger and healthier for longer with OneSkin. The Simple Sophisticate is also sponsored by Boll & Branch. Did you know that most bedding is made with harsh chemicals like formaldehyde, synthetic pesticides, and toxic dyes? But one company is changing the standard for good. Boll & Branch makes the softest, most luxurious sheets without any toxins or harsh chemicals. They use the rarest 100% organic cotton that's traceable from family farm to your family home. Boll & Branch sheets have a natural, unmatched softness and get softer with every wash. You can feel the difference with their 30-night worry-free guarantee. Having had the opportunity to sleep on Boll & Branch's sheets, I can attest they do feel like a lovely butter bed, in the most wonderful, delicious way, of course. And with each wash, they only get softer. Boll & Branch signature sheets are a bestseller for a reason. Their sheets feel incredible on night one and get softer and softer for years to come. They feel buttery, soft, yet super breathable, so they're perfect for any season or climate. And they're loved by millions of sleepers with over 11,000 reviews. And with their 30-night worry-free guarantee, you can wash, style, and sleep in their sheets for an entire month. And if you don't love them, you can send them right back. As a simple, sophisticate listener, sleep better at night with the softest sheets from Boll & Branch. Get 15% off your first order when you use promo code SIMPLE at bollandbranch.com. That's Boll & Branch, BOLL branch.com, and then use the promo code SIMPLE. Exclusions apply. See site for details. Welcome back. All right, so let's dive into our final 2 points about the difference between a good value versus a good deal. Number 4 is home decor. So you may remember that in episode 361 this past summer, I shared the 33 decorating and construction lessons I learned while customizing my home Le Papillon over the last 3.5 years. And with each day, week, month, year, you get the idea, passes, I am reminded why those largely monetary investments that sometimes were mind-boggling to consider at first, for example, how much was the tile going to cost for the bathroom? The value they bring will last a lifetime. And when you purchase an item that may break down due to an ignorant cook, doesn't know how to work it, as long as it's got full coverage, warranty coverage built into the price, you are giving yourself a good value. And I share that because, as you know, many of you know, I cook on a La Cornue stove, the Cornue Fay line, not the Chateau line. And initially, I made a mistake or two. It was not the fault of the stove, but because there was an automatic 5-year, and it might even be more than 5 years, but a 5-year warranty built in, those repairmen came quickly. They came recommended from the company La Cornue, so they were trusted to work on this brand, knew this brand, and they were able to fix it and didn't cost me a dime. Little things like, Shannon, you need to clean the burner a little bit better. Have not made that mistake since. But again, if you've never had a stove like this, some of those nuances you just aren't aware of. That one sounds pretty simple, though. I'll take the brunt of the of the blame on that one. What I'm trying to get at here is, for those big ticket items, initially up front, if you can afford them and you're going to be using them. For me, I cook 3 times a day in my kitchen, and I have a show for it as well. I was taking in all these factors when making this big investment in my house. And while there are designs out there that look like a La Cornue, they don't function like a La Cornue. They won't last the lifetime that La Cornue. And I went and physically tested various stoves, the ones that looked like La Cornue and La Cornue. I also tested, as I talk about in a detailed post, why I chose that brand. I also looked at other French stoves as well that are well loved by famous people around the world. La Canache, for example, and for me it was La Cornue. It had to be La Cornue for all sorts of reasons. An example I will share is that there was an imitation brand, and it does look very nice aesthetically, but when you actually feel the stove, you open the door, the sturdiness is lacking. The materials they're using are not quality, and thus it's reflected in the price tag. It's a lot cheaper to buy. You actually, interestingly enough, still have to pay a warranty if you want a warranty coverage on top of that low price. But the value of the La Cornue stove was a no-brainer for me. And it will be with me for the rest of my life. And if I ever move, which I doubt I ever will, that stove will go with me. I've told somebody, I was like, it's going with me. We're building a place for it wherever I go. And you can do that. It is one of those kind of items. It's like a great sofa. Okay. But let's talk about, so those are the big investment items. So stoves, appliances. It's again going to depend on how you live in your house and how you use those items. But let's talk about decorating. So furniture, flooring, antiques, items that can cost a pretty penny. So unlike the maintenance of a sports car, for example, once you purchase that antique chandelier, all you have to do is dust it from time to time. The maintenance is minimal, if nearly non-existent. And if it brings you pleasure and aesthetically finishes the room, which brings you comfort and calm, it is a sage investment indeed. It is a good value. It is a good value to say yes to rather than paying less for something you don't love and likely will replace when you lay your eyes on something that does finally speak to you more sweetly. And so this is also where, and I talk about this often, specifically most recently in the tour of my fireplace, as well as my kitchen. Sometimes it's going to take years to find exactly what you want. And during that wait, you can be saving. But you also know that when you find it, you're done. That's what you need. You're not going to be looking for something better. Whereas if you buy a replacement item or an item that's so, it's kind of what you want, and you know you'll eventually replace it, it's a good deal, but is it a good value? It's not. It's not a good value if you're eventually going to replace it, and it's just a matter of time. So my guiding wisdom that I follow is buy once, buy well, and then enjoy for a very long, lovely time while you go about living your life. And here's another thing to think about, and I have done it often on one or two items that I eventually purchased a couple years later. If it is a quality, well made item, and eventually you are going to purchase it, so you found it, you know exactly what you want. I mean, it is the thing. Woohoo! But the price tag is high, and so you hem and haw, and you're not sure. But you know this is not a hemming and hawing about whether you like the item and whether you'll use it, love it, and have it forever. It's just a matter of the price. You just have to wrap your head around it. Keep in mind, as I shared earlier, the market will always gradually, eventually, over time, go up. That price tag will go up. So we all, as we know, have to work within our budgets, but keep this financial commodity fact in mind that prices over time go up. However, I want to circle back to this point. You're hemming and hawing, but it's not just the price, it's whether or not you like the item. So for me, I knew I wanted a blue stove in my kitchen. I knew it had to be either an Aga or a French stove, either a La Cornue or La Canache. It's just a matter of deciding which brand I wanted. But I knew it was going to be blue, and I knew it was going to be one of those three brands once I had done my homework. I wasn't hemming and hawing about the item. I just hemmed and hawed about, that price tag. But once I realized that it's only going to go up over time, and it already has, and in fact, my blue color is no longer available in La Cornue right now. I'm sure it'll come back though. Point being, make sure you know you. Awareness. Why are you hemming and hawing? Is it the price tag alone, or is it the item you're not sure about? If it's the price tag alone, find the money if you can, or save up for it as quickly as possible and get it, because it's only going to go up over time. If it's not just the price tag, then don't buy it. All right, so that's number 4. How to navigate when it comes to home decor, knowing the difference between a good value and a good buy or a good deal. Last but not least, we've been talking about big ticket items that will last a long, long time for some of us, or for some of them our lifetime. But now let's talk about the everyday expenditures, because those are the ones we're often going to be making, right? So the other day, I popped into a local coffee shop. And I often do that. I'll pop into a coffee shop and I try to go to all sorts of different ones. But eventually, I found a coffee shop that actually does make a great cup of tea. And I only say that because there's some really good coffee spots in Bend, and notably in Oregon itself, Portland especially as well. There's just great coffee here, but I am not a coffee drinker. So finding a good coffee shop, because I love the ambiance of a coffee shop or, cafe, that makes a great cup of tea and gives their customers actual ceramic teacups and saucers. That's also very rare. This place does both. It has great cup of tea and they have teacups and saucers. Love that. This is one of the many reasons I returned to this particular coffee shop. And so I headed to this coffee shop recently, and I just wanted to give myself an hour to step away from technology and just read. So reading an actual paper or hardback version of the book I had. And then I ordered myself a large English breakfast tea, a favorite treat, and settled into one of the rare open seats and whiled away an hour. It was the best $6.50 that I spent in my day. And on the other days, because I don't go there more than once a week and often only once every a couple times a month. The rest of the days, I make my own pot of tea at home, and I do that frequently, multiple times a day. And I use some of my favorite teas that I have stored in my epicery. Twinings, Yorkshire Gold for my everyday teas. And then I have my favorite French and English teas as well, from Fortnum and Mason or Plat de Thé or Mirage Frere. And I've linked to all those favorite teas if you want to. If you too are a tea drinker, I've linked to all the specific teas that I love, the varietals as well, on the link in the show notes under number 5. You can read that detailed post. But I spent $6.50 on just a cup of tea, which for a tea bag, and that's just absurdly expensive if you look at it from a price point. But I wasn't just paying for the tea bag. and the treat. I was paying for the experience, the ambiance, the just being out and about. And so this was a good value, even though the price tag initially doesn't look like a good deal. So yeah, it's not a good deal, but it is a good value. And that's a smart move. Is it elevating your life? All right. And that's also why I don't, here's a on the flip side. So this purchase was a good value because it brings with it something I savor that brings pleasure and is an enjoyment, a calming respite, and thus an elevation of my day. However, if I were in the habit of driving through a coffee spot and purchasing coffee to go, that would not be a wise investment, especially once added up, as it isn't bringing value to my day and is draining my budget. In other words, you may be saying, but I love my coffee, and then I go to work and I have a great conversation with my colleagues and my clients, whatever it might be. I'm not dismissing that as that brings you value. So clearly the coffee that brings you value, but it's paying for someone else to make it. That is something you can do far more cheaply and still then create the atmosphere at work that you want. So here's the option that I would recommend. Paradoxically, it might actually behoove you to purchase a special coffee machine or dreamed about tea kettle for your home. You're going to pay well up front and like, ooh, that price tag might hurt. If it's something you can afford and it makes coffee or tea the way you want it to be made, and you're only going to be taking it from your home to work anyway, in the long run, you're saving yourself money. So it's a great value. And you're not wasting money unnecessarily for years as you do the drive up. Okay. So something to think about when we look about the difference between great value versus a great deal. I consider this often when I am deciding whether or not to go out to dinner or to order takeout versus cooking at home. So, part of the reason I love cooking at home is that I have a kitchen that is well stocked with the proper tools to enjoy the process of cooking and that enable me to cook as well as my skills will allow. In other words, the ingredients I have in my epicerie are of high quality and my knives are sharpened and my skillets heat up evenly and quickly. I may have invested up front on many of these items, but I don't have to pay again and again to keep using them so long as I know how to maintain them and I am then assured a very good meal. Again, it comes down to what you value. If you with regards to going out to dinner, if you don't mind if the food might be hit or miss because you simply just want to rest and sit while catching up with friends or family, then going to dinner is a good value. But if you are in need of a satiating meal and cannot be guaranteed you will have it if you go out, nor if there will be good service, which is for me, have to have good service is, I mean, I will go somewhere, pay a little more simply because they have good service. The good value is to invest in good ingredients and utensils and cook yourself a dependably wonderful meal at home. So, when you look at your everyday expenditures, if you're evaluating your budget whenever you assess it, maybe it's yearly, maybe it's bi monthly, whenever it is, ask yourself what are the good values that you're willing to pay for? And what are things that they look like a good deal up front, but are actually not bringing your life anything of quality and not elevating it and actually maybe draining you slowly but surely if it's everyday expenditure like the coffee or the tea, whatever you drink, right? So those are the five arenas to explore. If, of course, you can apply this to everything that you are spending money on. Even it doesn't have to be money, your time. Your time is money, right? You can't buy more of it. I think about that a lot when I don't have employees in my company. It's just me, as you all know. But for me, investing in paying for someone to clean my house, for example, is equivalent to a contractor in the sense that I'm buying myself time. That for me is a good value because I'm actually buying myself energy that I would have to expend if I was cleaning my house regularly. And I love having a clean house. It energizes me. It provides a creative sanctuary for me. But if I do it regularly, it also takes away time where I can be creative. So, what also can you invest in that gives you back what you value? So it's a different way to look at it, but there's just some ideas to think about. All right. what I find revealing about each of the arenas in our lives where we might choose to pay more upfront due to the choice that for us is a good value rather than a good deal is that onlookers may have an opinion or make a judgment about us, assuming we have oodles of money or assuming we are trying to one up others or casting aspersions from their sole and limited perspective. Of course, we serve ourselves well by paying no mind to anyone else's opinion, and we should never be someone that has an opinion about other people's decisions. However, if we worry about that, we cannot forget that what is of value to one person may not be of value to another. And we are here to live our lives. Our responsibility is to live our life and to let other people live their life. And so it is only our opinion that matters, as well as if we're seeking the opinion of an expert about a particular item, for example, then we're listening to what they have to say about it so we can be a more educated purchaser if we're going to be purchasing something or spending money on something. But it is number one for us not to worry about what other people will think with our purchases. If it is of value to us and we know why we're making it, and in the long run, we know it is ultimately the best purchase for our money, then that is what's most important. On the flip side, it is not our job to have an opinion, cast judgment about other people's way of living their life. We expend unnecessary energy when we do that. Work on cultivating the life that brings you to life, that elevates what you do and can uniquely give to the world. To bring it back to the genes that we discussed at the top of the episode, for one person, they may not need to have genes that look sharp, but merely get them to work so they can do their job. And their job isn't about appearances. It might be a particular labor. It might be protecting them. So the genes have to be not about looks, but protecting them. And the money they save, not buying high-end denim well-made jeans, is invested in something that's more important to them. Whereas the person who invests in a quality of pair of jeans may wear the item as part of their daily uniform at work, where presentation is paramount, but they also must be comfortable. Again, what is of value to us is our business and no one else's, and vice versa. So I guess why I'm sharing that is we can learn from others, we can be inspired by others, but to expend energy sharing our thoughts or opinions about their purchases reveals our nascent mind about information we will never be privy to. It's best to concern ourselves with what will be the best investments for our life journey and savor the outcome of our sagacious choices, as our peace of mind will elevate and our energy and budget as well is no longer depleted unnecessarily. All right. So you can take a peek at this list and look at those links that I shared with you throughout this conversation on the show notes of simplyluxuriouslife.com/podcast 376. And I have one sponsor I'd like to introduce you to, and then I'll be back with this week's Petit Plaisir. The Simple Sophisticate is sponsored by Aloe Moves. Perhaps you are one of those people who thought you don't have time to prioritize wellness. I recently came across Aloe Moves, and they offer the opportunity to change that mindset. The app, Aloe Moves, makes it easy to keep your wellness routine on track because you have everything in one place. There's yoga, Pilates, and fitness classes, mindfulness, self-care tips, healthy recipes, and so much more. From beginner to advanced, Aloe Moves has the flow or class that will fit your schedule. Their classes range from 5 minutes to an hour depending on what you're feeling that day. Trying to get a good sweat? Then try their award-winning workouts like sweat-inducing yoga flows, HIIT classes, or reformer Pilates workouts with or without weights. Or find stress relief with meditations, affirmations, face yoga, dry brushing, and journaling for those quiet moments. And when it comes to sleep, it's just as important as fitness and nutrition, as we know. Having watched The Art of Sleep on Aloe Moves, you can fall asleep faster and stay asleep longer. Having the opportunity to use their app anytime I'm not able to get to my yoga studio to take my favorite yoga classes, knowing that I have their app to take yoga classes from has been fantastic. I can do it whenever it fits my schedule, and it provides the workout, the stretch, and the self-care opportunity to tend to my mind that I need. As a Simple Sophisticate listener, unlock your personal wellness routine with Aloe Moves. Go to aloemoves.com and use promo code SOPHISTICATE for an exclusive 30-day free trial and enjoy 20% off an annual membership. That's Aloe Moves, ALOMOVES.com. Use the promo code SOPHISTICATE and enjoy 20% off your annual membership and a 30-day free trial. That's aloemoves.com, code SOPHISTICATE. Welcome back. This week's Petit Plaisir is a wonderful new series, limited series, that is going to be premiering on Masterpiece, PBS Masterpiece, the Sunday of March 17th. So before we have our next episode on Sunday, March 17th, the series Noli will premiere on PBS Masterpiece. And I had the opportunity to watch this entire series. There's 3 episodes, about an hour and a half each, starring Helena Bonham Carter. When I was traveling to England and on the plane ride over, I watched it in its entirety and was introduced to a woman I did not know. So this is a true story based on Noli Gordon. And she was one of the most famous faces on British television in the 1960s and 70s. What she was famous for was her starring role in what we would call in the States a soap opera, because it aired during the day. And it was the UK's first full-length daily serial series. And she starred on that show as Meg Richardson, or Meg Mortimer, as she got married during the duration of the show, between 1964 and 1981. And it is during that time. So she was acting well before then. She was a performer well before then, since she was a young girl, in fact. And you get to know that aspect of her life as well in this series, her childhood and her early career where she started. But it was during her starring role as Meg Mortimer on Crossroads that she became beloved by the British public. And so where this series begins, actually, though, is at the end of her stint on Crossroads. So the early 80s, when the executives figure out a way to get rid of her. I'm not revealing any spoilers here, because this is where it begins. And it's also, you can look all this up online about it, because it's a true story. And so it starts with her showing how powerful and savvy she is about television. She's super savvy, and that's part of what was intimidating to the executives. They didn't like this woman who had a voice, who knew how to command the audience, an audience that adored her, and they figured out a way to get rid of her. And so the series follows her journey, being let go, and how she navigated that, what she did afterwards, and how she eventually came back to the series, because it did return to air in the late 1980s. But it's a wonderful series and well acted by Helena Bonham Carter. Brilliant acting in this series. You learn all sorts of different historical firsts in television that she set. So she was the first female executive for commercial television in Britain. She was just a game changer. And part of the reason as well, she was not your typical, she didn't follow the typical path of a woman with regards to her personal life. She did almost get married once, but the family, not the gentleman that she was to marry, didn't want her, because she was an actress, to be married to their son. Thought it was something that would look poorly for the family name. And so she kind of, some people say the reason she never married again was because of that experience. That isn't necessarily what the show conveys. But she is a strong woman, never gets married, never has children, and has a fantastic life as far as a lot of good friends, a lot of close friends, a successful career. And then this hits, and her friends stay with her, but the executives is what she's battling. And it's an interesting look into culture as much as her career in television. But again, the series is called Noli. It is going to air in the States on PBS Masterpiece Sunday, kickoff the 17th. And I highly recommend it. I think you will thoroughly enjoy it. Plus, you get to step back into the fashions of the late 70s and the 80s, which are brilliant, as Bonham Carter's performance is described as brilliantly camp, and the series itself is described as impeccably put together. I highly recommend it, and I hope you thoroughly enjoy it just as much as I have. I think I'll be watching it again just to see even more details after having learned the backstory of her. Once I finished the series, I did all sorts of reading on who she was and got to know her even more. Just sounds like a very fascinating lady who's definitely an inspiration. All right. I hope you've enjoyed this week's Petit Plaisir, where each week ideas are shared to make the everyday all the more enjoyable. Tune in at the end of each episode where I'll recommend a book, a film, a show, a recipe, anything that is a simple pleasure to satiate your sophisticated taste. All right. Before we wrap up today, I wanted to remind you that new on the blog, March 2nd, the annual spring shopping guide was shared with more than 80 hand-picked shopping finds as I shopped through the trends that were worth investing in. And you can visit the blog to shop that post. As well, I want to say a big shout out to a listener of this show and also the new photographer for the Simply Luxurious Life and the podcast, because I finally have new photos of myself and myself with the dogs. And it's all thanks to a brilliant photographer that met me through this podcast. So I want to say hello to Gabby Cost. And I want to thank you so much for reaching out to me. Gabby hails from Chicago and was in Bend for a holiday weekend. And we had the most lovely time on a Bend Bluebird day. You won't believe the photographs because it was taken in the middle of February, literally the middle of February, the day before Valentine's Day. Not a speck of snow. You would not know that now. It is snowing outside right now. We have about 4 inches. She just captured some fabulous photographs that I will treasure forever, especially the ones with my Norman and my Nell. So I want to thank Gabby so much. Nabby is the head photographer of her business, Noru Photography. I highly recommend seeking her out if you are looking for brand photos, anything to capture who you are in a genuine, sincere way. She is a true expert and a lovely human being to spend time with as you're working with her. So thank you so much, Gabby. It was a true treasure that I will savor forever. And you all can look at those photographs on my birthday post that I posted on February 28th on the blog. I also share 7 life lessons that I learned during the past year, accompanied by all the photographs that Gabby took. All right, so I will be back with a new episode on the 20th of March, Wednesday the 20th. And until then, I hope you savor the final days of winter as spring is about upon us. Thank you so much for tuning in. Wishing you a wonderful rest of your day. Bonne journée. Thank you for tuning in to the Simple Sophisticate podcast, where intelligent living is paired with signature style. For more ideas and inspiration throughout the week, visit the blog, The Simply Luxurious Life, with the shortened URL tsll.co or thesimplyluxuriouslife.com. For more in-depth exploration of how to cultivate your own unique, simply luxurious life, pick up my new book, which became both a bestseller and #1 new release in France Travel, The Road to Le Papillon, Daily Meditations on True Contentment. Available in all 4 formats for your preferred reading or listening. My first book, titled Choosing the Simply Luxurious Life, and my second book, Living the Simply Luxurious Life, are also available in each of the 4 formats. Readers can now join the more intimate The Simply Luxurious Life international community by becoming members of the blog, which offers the benefits of ad-free reading site-wide, unlimited access and exclusive access to content on the blog, such as the monthly A Couple Moments with Shannon video chat, tours of my home Le Papillon, the monthly What Made Me Smile post, and monthly Ponderings post, as well as the exclusive opportunity to enter all of the giveaways during the annual French and British weeks. To stay caught up on all things Simply Luxurious, the podcast, blog post, the cooking show, and receive exclusive news, as well as an extra dose of inspiration to jumpstart each new month, subscribe to the Simply Luxurious Life's free monthly newsletter, arriving on the last day of each month in your inbox. There is also a weekly newsletter, which is also free, and arrives each Friday to keep you caught up on the recent weekly posts on the blog. Enjoy with a hot cuppa or cup of morning coffee, and stay in the know about all things simply luxurious. Look for 2 new episodes of this podcast on the first and third Wednesday of each month. And until next time, I'm your host, Shannon Ables. Thank you for tuning in. Bonne journée.